Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of WeAreSC.com's Arledge's 10 Questions. We have our two noble competitors in the building. They go back and forth every week heroically. I can't remember who won last week. Who did win last week?
It was a tie.
That's right. Nobody won. They both choked away question number 10. This week, we still have a question number 10, but I think they'll do better. I hope. You want to defend yourself from last week, or you just want to jump right into it, guys?
It was poor officiating, but we'll let that go.
Well, if that's the problem, you're going to see more of it. I'm
getting used to it. I'm getting used to it in this conference. I really am.
I'm basically a Big Ten official. Okay, question number one. And I would have enjoyed this question a lot more had USC not fallen apart and given that other game away. But Vanderbilt, Alabama. I mean, that's pretty sweet. Where does Vandy-Alabama rank in terms of the biggest college football upsets of all time? Mark, start us off.
No, yeah, it was a huge upset. Don't get me wrong. It's been quite a while since Vanderbilt beat Alabama, but if we're still considering that USC lost to Stanford that 40 back in 2007.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know of any such game.
If that's considered the gold standard for upsets of all upsets, I'm not sure this one is in the top 5. So it was. Unfortunately, it happened on the same weekend that Tennessee lost at Arkansas, Missouri lost at Texas A&M. It kind of took a little bit of the, oh, look what Vandy did. It kind of takes a little bit away from that. So again, that's why I don't think this is going to happen 2 weeks in a row. It's a big upset, but I don't think it ranks up there with one of the biggest.
I think Vandy's going to win out. That's what I think is going to happen. Eric, where does this rank in terms of big upsets?
Yeah, it's a top 10. It's a top 10. Looking back, the point spread was 22.5, which doesn't make it one of the top 10. So like clearly something. But when you look at what Alabama had done to Vanderbilt over the past, I don't know, hundreds of years. I mean, the stat that jumps out where Vanderbilt scored more points against Alabama in the first half of the first Kalen DeBoer game, more points in the first half than they did in the Nick Saban era. That's insane. That's insane. So the Stanford USC one is always going to be up there, and Mark has to lose the point because he brought it up first. I'm just echoing what he said. And then the Appalachian State over Michigan thing, that's a top 5. I know Alabama's 1, but that's different. That's not the same conference, all of that. So I'm leaving those 2, and I know Mark loves talking about USC losses, so he'll have that number 1. I think that Michigan one is probably number 1 for me. But yeah, there's not a whole lot when you go down the list of games and you say, well, that's clearly a win. I don't know how many games jump this one in terms of just absolutely knowing that one team was going to win and having it go the other way.
I mean, the thing about USC Stanford was horrific and unacceptable and all that. But I had seen Stanford beat USC a bunch of times, right? In my lifetime, it had happened a number of times. I never thought Appalachian State would win at the Big House. That one was shocking. But nobody ever expects Vandy to compete with Alabama because Vandy doesn't compete with Alabama. It's the one team in that conference that never does anything, ever. They're only there so Alabama and LSU and Florida and all the rest of them can rest their starters in the second quarter and beat them by 80, right? It happens all the time. That's what's shocking about it. 22.5-point upsets do happen. That's not a normal 22.5-point upset. That's Vanderbilt beating a number 1 Alabama team. Nobody thought that there was any chance that would happen. That was up there. McKinney gets the point because Mark brought up the thing he should not have brought up, and he knows better. He'll learn from that. Okay, question number 2. You guys still excited about leaving those Pac-12 officials behind? Eric McKinney, go.
Here's the thing that I said on the site when this was announced and everybody said we're leaving Pac-12 officials behind. all officials are terrible. SEC fans hate SEC officials. Big Ten fans before this hated Big Ten officials. The Pac-12's issue in everything football related was a branding messaging issue. And they allowed the Pac-12 officials to become a joke. They allowed Pac-12 After Dark to become a joke. It was bad messaging. They played football in the Pac-12 just as well as everybody else. People were more serious about the SEC, so it meant more, and then that became everything else that it became. Pac-12 officiating had some absolutely insanely horrific decisions made in it.
That's true.
You've seen it in other conferences too. It's happened in other conferences. It's going to continue happening. It honestly feels like this year, especially with some of the misses, it feels like the game is happening too quickly for the officials on the field. And the answer would be adding like 5 more, except then you're going to get an insane number of flags. So it's going to be what it is. You're going to get video after games of some egregious holds that go uncalled. And it's going to be what it is. I would rather, honestly, I'd rather see games played like this than flags on every single play. Flags on every single play is not. You cannot play football that way.
Mark, let me summarize Eric's answer. The Pac-12 officials really weren't that bad. Do you agree with that? What's your view?
So I stopped being excited when I found out that, 60-70% of the Pac-12 officials were migrating over to the big conference. So we haven't really gotten rid of them. And it's not, look, we talk about all the holding that seems to be allowed. How about we just have some common sense come into play here? When somebody on the field calls a timeout and the coach says, no, I didn't want the timeout, but you still give them the timeout. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Some really terrible decisions being made after the fact.
Yeah.
You see the Michigan guy on the sideline explaining, no, I was giving a hand signal like this to the defense. And that, like, okay, then you can't have that. That can't be your hand signal. Can't be
Right.
it.
Oh, if that's your hand signal, then you have to get a timeout call. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
And then the replay review at the end, and Lincoln wasn't going to get into it after the game.
Got to challenge it.
There's no timeout, right? He used all his timeouts. But you cannot reinterpret the rules of replay review on the fly because it seems like a touchdown. Cannot do it.
Yeah. I was quite sure that he got in live, right? It seemed obvious. But if it wasn't called, but if it's not called a touchdown on the field and you can't see anything in the replay, then you make a mockery of the rules when you just award him the touchdown. And the only reason I'm not more fired up about that is because I do think he scored. But still, I prefer the Big Ten style of officiating when it comes to letting the guys play. And USC is going to have to adjust. If you're going to be held, then you need to start holding people too, and that's fine. I like letting the guys play. It's this other stuff, the weird stuff that you say that's not even within a reasonable expectation of what an official will do. That's bothering me. That being said, Eric downplayed just how horrible Pac-10 officials are, and I am not ready to hear that yet. So the point is going to go to Mark Culkin. It's 1-1.
What was so frustrating about that game too was how clear it seemed to be that there was this cloud of, boy, we can't do this to Minnesota again. Like anything down the line, we can't do it again because we can't change more rules. We already changed a rule from their game the previous week.
It was like an NBA Finals game where, back when the Lakers were so good, you'd have those games where Shaq would go to the line 25 times because they're calling the fouls, and you knew the very next game that they weren't going to get those calls, right? The officials adapt on a weekly basis. It sort of felt like that, and I mean, I'm still glad to get rid of the Pac-12 officials we lost. I don't know who those guys were. I don't even know if they hired the good 70% because I don't know who those guys are. I mean, they all seem so bad on a weekly basis. I don't know how you could hire any of them. Whatever. The only thing that would have been dumber than that is hiring Larry Scott to come work in the commissioner's office too. Why not pull that move too? Whatever. It's 1-1. I don't want to talk about that anymore. All right, guys. In past weeks, we've talked about who the breakout players are going to be, right? This week, it's slightly different question. Who must break out for USC? Who has to be the breakout player at this point? Mark, you're up. I think you're up.
Sounds a little odd saying this, but it's got to be the quarterback. It's got to be Miller Moss. He's got to be able to somehow, some way ignite this offense. And I know I'm not faulting him for the offense, for their struggles, but he's got to be that guy. He's got to have that one. I know I'm crossing sports. He's got to have that one shining moment. He's got to be able to lead this team, take a hit, throw the touchdown on the same hit. It's a big ask, but he has to be the dude right now because his wide receivers aren't giving him a whole lot of help, which makes it even harder.
His wide receivers, his offensive line, his coach, not a lot of help from anywhere right now. I'm doing my best. I'm helping him. Eric, what do you think? Who has to step up for USC? Who has to have a breakout week?
Elijah Page. I mean, if Penn State can flip side, right? Abdul Carter, you can do a ton with him. You don't have to line him up on one guy every single time. But boy, if we're coming out of this game saying, "Oh, he found it out there," that was a great game. The USC offense will be in a much better position. And so again, we've talked about, look, if you're going to keep throwing him out there and you're going to keep saying we're taking steps forward, we see it, we're taking steps forward. Here we go.
Yeah, I like both of those answers. I mean, I think in many respects, Mark is right. Miller, you're going to get hit a bunch. You are. And that means that when you have an opportunity to hit one of those deep throws, you have to hit it. That's not fair to put all that pressure on you, but you have to because USC badly needs to be able to strike downfield. And if Zachariah Branch is open by 4 yards, you have to hit him. But yeah, look, here's the thing. If Elijah Page could start to get it together, you could find a way to protect your other tackle. It's hard to protect both of them. I mean, what are you going to do? You can have the running back chip on one side or the other, but you can move the tight end to one side or the other. But if both tackles are getting destroyed by the edge rushers, there's not a lot of great answers to that. One of those guys needs to step up, and I think you're right. It probably needs to be Page. He's the young guy who you would expect would improve dramatically over the course of this year. I don't know that we've seen that yet, but I'm still hopeful that he will. I like both answers. It's 2-2. All right. Are Florida State fans, question number 4, are Florida State fans the worst people in the world? Because how else can you explain what has happened to them over the last 7 games? Eric.
I mean, I don't think so. I don't think that they're the worst people in the world.
But look at what you have that undefeated season ended by a 60-point Georgia beatdown, and now they've turned into what Vanderbilt used to be. I mean, how else do you explain it? It has to be divine retribution, doesn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe Mike Norvell did something wrong to a quarterback at one of his past stops, right? One guy was ready and he didn't play him for political reasons, or he wanted to recruit somebody, and so he did this, and now they have just gotten right. The quarterback injury leads to all of that stuff at the end last year. You make what seems to be a pretty big transfer portal mistake at that position. So maybe there's some quarterback karma from specifically against him at one of coming back from one of his past coaching stops. Look, there's worse fan bases than Florida State. I don't think they've done anything wrong. I mean, you make a good argument.
Oklahoma fans would deserve this. Oregon fans would deserve this. I don't know if FSU fans deserve it, but it's happening, so maybe I need to reassess. Mark, how do you explain what's happened to this Seminole football program and their fans?
Yeah, I was trying to connect the dots on the question because I don't know what Florida State fans have to do with it.
I assume they're the guilty parties, are they not?
They're suffering like they're the guilty party, that's for sure.
Okay.
Are they the worst fans? No, I haven't had enough interaction with them. I think the worst fans out there are UCLA fans, and they deserve everything they're getting right
Where
now.
are they?
That's my point.
Oh, I mean, every time I see a picture of the Rose Bowl, it looks like it looks like it's a practice and a closed practice. It's a strange thing. Um, I I don't know what's going to happen with Florida State the rest of the way. They're going to lose a lot of games, I'm sure. Mike Norvell probably doesn't get fired after this, but if I'm a Florida State fan, when he signed DJ to come be his quarterback, I think I look at that and say, "Are you sure? Are you sure that's the guy that's going to lead us?" Because I remember him. He played in our conference. I remember what it looked like. That's one of the most shocking decisions I think I've ever seen from a. It's not like Florida State doesn't have any other options. It's not like they can't find a quarterback somewhere else. That's crazy.
He's hurt now, right? Isn't DJ out?
Sounds like it looks like Mark is shaking his head yes. So they're going to play the freshman who they probably should have been playing all along, I guess. I don't know. It's been tough to be a USC fan for some time now. But to be 11 and or 12 and 0 like Florida State is, get kept out of the playoff when you're the first time ever an undefeated conference champ is left out of the playoff, then have everybody leave the program before the bowl game, get beat by 60, then walk out and every single week look like absolute garbage, like you're a bottom feeder in NCAA one. I mean, I can't imagine how bad that
all
is.
while saying you're too good for the conference that you're in.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the karma. I mean, it's just I mean, Florida State was a top 10 team preseason. Now, obviously that was too high, but geez. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a top 10 team look like this. But it sets up an exciting Florida State game. So I'm looking forward to that. I can't separate those answers. 3-3. Okay, here's a good one. If you could attend one non-USC game this year, what would it be? Mark.
Ooh. I've talked about in the past. I got to go check out the Alabama Georgia game. I can't do it this year, so I got to do it again when it happens. So we're members of the big conference. Let me go check out Michigan, Ohio State. See what that's all about.
Michigan, Ohio State. Probably won't be a great game this year, but you're right. That's one that I probably need to see in my lifetime. Eric, who's it going to be for you?
You're gonna get mad about this because I'm going back in time, but that Alabama Georgia game would have been something to be at.
You're right. I don't like that answer. Mark gets the point. I mean, Mark at least had the good sense to say we can't go back in time, so I'd have to watch it some other year. And you follow that up by saying that. I would have taken acceptable answers. Would have included the Iron Bowl, Texas A&M, which I think will be. There's a lot of bad blood there. It could be a good game this year. Army Navy. I'd go Army Navy probably. Anyway, whatever. Mark gets the point. Okay, I got another question, and this is a chance to get some catharsis. I'm gonna be your therapist here. My question is this: are you guys just tired of every single year feeling like you get your heart ripped out? I mean, that's sort of what that Minnesota game sort of, I mean, I look at that and say, it shouldn't go down this way this season. Every year there's just a bitter pill that you're fed that is so hard to swallow that I got to admit, I mean, it's only a few days since the game happened, but I'm tired. I'm tired. I did not want this again this year. You guys going to pep me up, or are you going to join me in my misery? Where are we going with this? Eric?
No, it means you care, man. It means you're alive, right? So you talk about Florida State fans serving some sort of penance. You don't have to go back that far for USC fans to be saying another Rose Bowl. This is boring. What are we doing? Right? And I don't think this is punishment, but no, you gotta feel wins and losses. It's college football. There was Lincoln Riley says a lot of things where you can kind of shake your head and you say, 2 plays away. No, you're not 2 plays away from 5-0. He's not wrong when he talks about the taking over this program and looking at the hill, the mountain that they had to climb. And it was a long way that they had to go. You're going to have some bumps, you're going to have some ups and downs, but no, I mean, the Utah State game, I don't need 6 of those. I don't need 6 of those in a year. These are fun. These are fun football games to come down to the wire. Now I'm physically tired because I didn't go to bed after that game, putting content and stuff up after that. But no, these are fun games to watch. You don't want to lose as many as you've lost, and USC's they've got to figure that out. You cannot go to Minnesota and lose that game. Can't do it. But no, it's fun. It's fun to be in these games every year, every week now.
He's having fun, Mark. You having fun?
I don't think I'd be describing it that way. I look at it this way. When I'm tired, I get really cranky. I've been really cranky lately.
I've seen that, yes.
Yeah. So I guess I could say I'm tired. I think I feel numb and I'm lashing out and I'm getting really tired of lashing out. So I'm tired.
Yeah.
All comes back to being tired of something.
Maybe Eric's onto something. Maybe it was all that complaining about Rose Bowls and top 4 finishes because we would lose a game we shouldn't lose somewhere along the way. But I gotta say, I was worried about this one. I was worried about this one because I knew the offensive line problems, and it's a road game. It's a game before Penn State. It felt like a game that could go south, but I didn't really expect it to. Right? I didn't really think that would happen. I don't know. I'm having a hard time getting over this one, guys. I mean, after that LSU game, I looked at the schedule and I thought I think we can get to 10-2 on this one. I think we can get in the playoff. That's going to be a real turnaround from where the program has been. To 1 month later being where I look at the schedule and think, oh man, we have to play better than we played to get to 9-3. And 7-5 is not out of the question. That's not where I thought we'd be, but I guess that's where we are. I'm going to take off a point for me because I'm whining. It's still 4-3, Mark Culkin. Okay, to make us feel better, I want you to give me one college football figure and then one mythological punishment you'd like to see the Olympian gods dispense upon him. Mark, who are you going to punish?
Does that be a player or can it be a coach?
It could be an announcer, it could be an official. I don't care. Just any college football figure.
Any college. So Paul D in his grave?
Yeah, if we could still get to him, I think he would be up there for me too.
Yeah, well, he's definitely the figure. I'm not sure what else we can do to him at this point. But
that's fair.
He's the dude. You know what?
But if you could
go ahead.
No. If you've got a punishment, let's hear it. I'm ready to go. This show's getting dark, but I'm all for it.
Hey, look, I got some blowback when I said take away the firstborn. I'm just going to say Paul D, and whatever the gods want to do to him, make it happen.
I mean, chaining him up and having that liver attacked by the birds. I mean, that would be appropriate. I could do that one. Whatever. All right, McKinney, who do you got? Who's getting punished?
So maybe it's Lincoln Riley. It's Lincoln Riley.
Okay.
And I'm going right. I want this to be temporary and then be fine.
Okay.
But I'm going Sisyphus because we got to run the rock. Run the rock. Over and over and over. Run the rock.
Push the rock up the hill.
Run it.
Okay. Eric, you just tied it up 4-4. I didn't think that anybody would pick Lincoln Riley. Just the courage to do that. I mean, you actually have to talk to the guy. Okay, 4-4. All right, here's another one. You're going to get in trouble again. You ready? If you had to do Josh Henson's job review tomorrow, what grade would you give him and what would you say? Eric?
I was hoping that that would fall on a mark first so I could give him like half a grade better and then it'd be fine. It's there's a lot of stuff that goes into recruiting now, playing now, all of that kind of thing. So the idea that it's cut and dry, this is X, Y, or Z's fault, and that's what it is. Anyway, that being said, you want a grade. It's a D. It's a D right now. USC's 2022 line was all guys, for the most part, all guys who are already there. And you inherited a good, solid veteran, not great, good, solid veteran line that played certainly well enough. Well enough that year. Yes, you had sort of the puppet master of Caleb Williams back there who could make pretty much anything, anybody look great. In the years following, it felt like a step backward last year, and so far this year feels like a step backward even from last year. And that's splitting hairs. If you want to call last year and this year pretty much a wash, then maybe, because again, you got two quarterbacks with different styles, different abilities. Who knows what pressures look like if Caleb Williams is back there this year and Miller Moss was back there last year. But it's a position group where 3 years in now, you are not saying, wow, it's really taken a step forward. The roster looks great. You're right. It's everyone wants to come play here. We put this thing together. We're on the right path. I think that some of the guys he brought in as recruits are going to be good offensive linemen. The fact that you have missed again, we got NIL and all those sorts of things. You can be an unbelievable recruiter, nail every single pitch, and still not get a guy. The guys they've brought in have been, I think, good, not good enough to play immediately. And when you bring in so many guys like they've brought in, your hit rate needs to be unbelievable on those guys. Better than what it typically is, I think, for 3-star offensive linemen. So you've put a lot into, we have to be right on a lot of different things. And so far, what we've seen this year is that probably wasn't exactly the right path to take to be good right now. USC fans right now don't want to hear that, hey, maybe in 2026, you're set up with how you've built things to have a pretty good experienced veteran offensive line. That's not going to win you any games this year. And so I think that the way they've gone, the path they've gone, and the results that you can point to right now, that's a struggle. That's been a struggle.
Mark, you agree with that?
Yeah, no, he's bordering on the D plus C minus level right now.
Oh, Mark took my route, just a little bit above the first grade. Oh,
he did. That's why he's getting the point. He's getting the point right now, and then he can finish his answer. I'm going to write it down. Okay, go ahead and finish your answer, Mark.
So his best recruit so far, at least when we're looking at the stars, is going to be Elijah Page, right? You brought in 10 guys in your first 2 full recruiting classes. You kind of have to say, 2022, it's a wash. You didn't have the time to get it done. So now you're trying to force, you've got your 10 guys that you've recruited. And that's what you want to do. You want to recruit your offensive linemen. They've been, their best move in the transfer portal is actually their best offensive lineman right now, and that's Emmanuel Prignon. And you weren't able to get anybody in the transfer portal that you needed this year. And I don't think that's because they didn't try. I think it's more because they weren't willing to pay for those guys. Eric talked about NIL. So is he developing the guys as quickly as we want to see them develop? No. But that's what he has to use right now. So as I said, Elijah Page is your highest rated recruit. He's been thrown to the fire. He's not getting it done. Mason Murphy, I haven't seen him improve with Josh Henson's development. So that's a strike against him. Your Jonah Monheim is playing center. Is he better at tackle? Right now, it's kind of a, hey, this is what we have. This is what we're going to use. And hopefully it works this week type of situation. That's why I'm trying to be as gracious with my grading on this one as possible, because it's the most important position group. And how often do you want, a redshirt freshman or a true sophomore starting on your offensive line? You don't.
So, especially at left tackle, unless it's Tony
Especially
Vasilevsky.
left tackle, right? So that's why I'm being a little bit lenient with the grade here. I can go as low as a D+, but I think considering everything that's involved, things that are out of his control, like NIL, I'm willing to say, take the C- home to your parents, have them sign it, and get back to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not yet in Dante Williams land. I mean, I got to the point there where he was a pretty good recruiter, but I got to the point where I didn't care who he recruited because I saw the product he put on the field pretty consistently. And so does Vanderbilt now. But I, in year 3, this isn't where you want to be. And I understand there may be extenuating circumstances, NIL and the like, but he and Lincoln Riley should have known what they had, and they should have done something. If that means you go and get a second tier guy to the transfer portal who you think can at least compete, then you do that. But to go into this season with the roster they have, where you have nothing if you get a couple injuries, right? And if you don't get injuries, you look at it and say, I don't know who we play. Do we take out this second year guy with that second year guy? Shouldn't be here in year 3. That's all.
Gavin Meyer is not a star. He's not a star.
Doesn't play offensive line either.
I would take the right if you had the right tackle version of Gavin Meyer super late into the portal. Yep, need a guy. Let's see what we've got. We like enough about him.
Yeah.
If you had a guy like that, where maybe it's not an answer where you put him in and he's a all Big Ten kind of guy, but he lets your guy take a break. Maybe you find something there. He's serviceable, something like that. Those guys, again, I'm not scouring the transfer portal. I'm not watching film of every single guy that breaks it, that goes in there. Maybe the coaches did, and they said no, absolutely nobody in there will help us. But it definitely felt like a decision was made at some point. No, we're good with everybody we have. We don't need to add anybody else. And especially when Lincoln Riley says before the portal opened, sometime during the spring, where he said, he specifically pointed to 2 spots where, we're going to go get guys. That feels like, okay, you went in maybe sort of underarmed in terms of the fights that you were going to get into this season.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay, question number 9. And we're going to talk about one of my favorite players, but I'm hurting right now for him.
Who got the point?
Huh? Oh, you got the point. Remember, I gave it to you before you even finished. You're up 5-4. You know what? I love it that you care about the score. You're up 5-4. Question number 9. When and why was Zachariah Branch's soul removed from his body, and when will he be himself again? Mark.
When he hit the weight room during the offseason, when he gave up track, I don't know. But right now, he does not look like Zachariah Branch. I mean, the indecisiveness, the holes in his hands. He looks like, well, I'm not going to say who he looked. He doesn't look like Zachariah Branch. He doesn't look like the best athlete that was coming out in his recruiting class. Somebody needs to find his soul, find his heart. He's got right now, he is offering nothing. And I don't dislike the young man. This is not personal. I want him to be the dude. But I can't have the guy who's supposed to be Mr. Electric, the guy who's put the ball in his hands and strike up the band. It's not happening. He got one kickoff return against Minnesota. And what did he do with it? He waved for the fair catch, and then he started to run with it. Luckily, they didn't get flagged for that. That tells me right now he has a lack of focus going on. And I'm not sure why it's happening, but he needs to be on the sideline. He needs to be watching Mekhi Lemon doing what Mekhi Lemon does when he gets his opportunities. Because the way you get a player's attention, take their playing time away. Sometimes some of them react well. Some of them will react like Bear Alexander and his dad. I don't think Zachariah Branch is going to react like Bear Alexander and his dad.
No, I suspect he won't. Eric, what's going on? What has happened to Zachariah Branch? I spent 2 years talking this kid up. I told everybody, absolute can't miss, right? Absolutely can't miss with that speed, with that quickness. This is a guy who I can virtually guarantee will be a top-notch player. And it looked like I was right first half of last year. But geez, I don't understand it. What's going on?
He hasn't scored a touchdown in 12 games. Exclamation point.
Well, neither is Chris.
It's fair.
So,
but nobody ever accused me of being a can't miss prospect. I was almost certain to miss prospect.
you know what's interesting? So I don't know what I would rather try to do, fix or diagnose this issue, or fix or diagnose the offensive line. Like they both feel heavy and important. USC has to get the idea of, let's just turn to somebody else and put Zachariah Branch on the bench. And I know you're not suggesting for the entire season or don't play him. I understand that. You have to get him. You have to get him going. You have to get him going. And I can understand running specific routes for him, trying to get him the ball. I also then can understand when it doesn't work, why are you force feeding him the ball? Why are you still trying to get to him when other guys are making plays? And this was first time in a while. Mekhi Lemon's coming back from what seemed like a pretty significant headshot. He took more snaps than Zachariah Branch in that game against Minnesota. Look, it's not going to go, on his resume or anything, but that 18-yard catch and run was the longest pass play for USC. And if that's the case, you're in trouble. I don't care what any particular single wide receiver is doing. You got to figure that out. I think what it goes back to, that opening game against LSU, he had a 46-yard kickoff return, which again, you look at that and you go, here we go again, just like last year. We got it. Best return guy in the country. Indecisive and then tackled by the kicker, right? And he said afterward, yeah, I should have just gone to the sideline. Should have just used my speed, get to the sideline, just go. But making that decision in game, in play of, let me try to set this angle up and do this and back and forth and cut back serpentine, and you get tackled. It wasn't a red flag. It wasn't an alarm. It was like, yeah, he's going to get another one. Get another one on the next kick. Take it back. But boy, does that feel more and more like that sort of overthinking in your head, not playing, loose and free that we've seen. And then I think it was the next week against Utah State, they took a hit, kickoff punt. In that game, I don't remember exactly the play. Took a hit on a return. And yeah, it's been since then just not fluid, not free. There was a play against Minnesota, the third down drop. Is that ball coming out hot? Did it get hidden behind a lineman where he couldn't see it right away? Like, it's hard to exactly see his vantage point. certainly looked like enough time to get your hands up and make that catch. That's the one that stands out. There was another play later where USC got him the ball on a screen with, I think, 3 blockers out in front. This is one of those plays where USC has struggled. 3 blockers in front of you. Look at the play on the TV replay. Not a Minnesota guy in the picture. Not one unblocked Minnesota defender in the picture. Zachariah Branch has the ball at the line of scrimmage, turning upfield. I think it ends up being a 4-yard gain. Nobody touches, none of the blockers touch anybody. The issues that they're having, letting him play by actually blocking for him, by actually kind of setting him up to succeed on the easy stuff, where you say a guy's kind of scuffling, let's get him something easy. That hasn't been there for him, and the lack of ability to really get him going, setting him up with other guys or with other things has been an issue. But yeah, I think you can go all the way back to the very beginning of the season and a play that actually was pretty good, pretty positive, and kind of showed, his ability in the return game as the first sort of that didn't seem like last year when he was aggressive and sure and just went for it.
It feels to me like this is a guy who's putting a huge amount of pressure on himself and is having difficulty dealing with it, right? I mean, you come in as a true freshman, everybody says you're a can't miss prospect, you're a 5-star recruit. In high school, you could do anything you wanted, anytime you wanted. You're a first team All-American as a freshman. I imagine during this offseason, Zachariah Branch worked really hard. By all accounts, he's a really hard worker. He worked really hard with the expectation that he was going to have a huge breakout season offensively. And I think the more games that go by where that doesn't happen, the more he's pressing, the more he's hearing the chatter about him, and the harder it's getting for him. I wonder if Moss can get that ball to him early in the game on that open deep route. He catches that. Does that start to lift the weight off his shoulders? I don't know, but they need him right now because this is a passing offense where it's all short and they got to work way too hard. One of the nice things about Caleb Williams' offense is where they didn't have to work that hard, right? I mean, you'd have your 10-play drives, but you'd also have a lot of 2-play drives where he just runs around, gets outside the pocket. You can't stay with the receiver that long. He hits somebody deep. USC needs some easy scores, and Zach Branch should be an easy score guy, and it's just not happening. Mark, you
Well,
want to say something?
is it just my eyes that have noticed? It seems like he's lost a step as well. Even on, like the jet sweeps, which they don't do often enough, he's not beating guys. He's getting caught from behind. So, is he injured? I don't know, but he just doesn't look right. And that's what bothers me the most.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's this. I know it's hugely disappointing for him, and I know it's disappointing for Lincoln Riley because you see Riley trying over and over again. He's trying to do something to get him going, and as Eric pointed out, almost all those occasions, nobody blocks. So he's getting the ball and he's getting killed after a 1-yard loss. But they need him to get going, and it's just not happening. Maybe this week, I don't know, but I'm worried about it.
And you can see on the quick stuff, right? There's a defensive back 10 yards off the ball, and that guy is never on his heels. That guy is leaning forward. If Zachariah Branch does not release from the line at the snap, he is full speed at him. And the wide receiver that's out there with Zachariah Branch cannot get to him. Cannot get to him. They are leaned forward on him every time he doesn't leave the line at the snap.
Yep. Which, that seems like good football to me, but probably what that means is they need to fake one of those and send one of those blockers deep. They're not blocking anybody anyway. They might as well do that. Okay. Eric, you're getting the point just because it makes it 5-5. All right, here we go, guys. Question number 10. This is for all the marbles. I hope you don't both screw this up again. If we get two straight ties, people will stop paying attention to our show. We won't get our Emmy. All right, question number 10. Give me a prediction for something we'll see Saturday against Penn State. Eric, I think you go first this time.
Yeah, that's fine. Look, I did not get Walker Lyons, but I did say the defensive line would get one sack and was mocked what I felt mercilessly for that. And
No,
the
there was
defensive
mercy.
line,
I can assure you there was mercy in that mocking. It could have been worse.
the
That wasn't
defensive
a-
line did end up with one sack. Did end up with one sack against Minnesota.
They did. They did. It's keeping the defense is averaging a sack a game, and that was the sack. So yeah, that was an amazing prediction. Do you have one that's equally exciting this week? Miller Moss will complete a 10-yard pass. What are you going to go with?
I kind of wanted to say the defensive line would get one sack again and just keep hammering that for the rest of the
Why
year.
don't you say 3 sacks? That would help
Because
us.
that's not going to be right. They're not going to get 3 sacks.
All right.
I thought we're supposed to. Mark cares about the score. I thought we were supposed to care about our predictions being right in this, and I'm trying to live up to that standard.
I want interesting predictions. If you tell me that Woody Marks is going to have at least 42 yards rushing, that doesn't help us. That's not exciting. It's not interesting.
So if Quentin Joyner has a huge game, I'd take 42 from Woody Marks. What I think is going to happen is that the Penn State offense is going to run some play that is just barely averts disaster. Barely averts disaster. And then James Franklin is going to run that exact same play on the next snap, and USC is going to take advantage for a game-changing turnover.
But that's what I'm talking about.
I don't think we've ever seen that before, but I think we're going to see it for the first time on Saturday.
No, that would be unprecedented, but that's exactly the sort of thing I'm looking for. Not the middle linebacker will get 3 tackles. Okay, Mark Culkin, what do you got? Can you beat that one?
So Eric thinks Liam McQuay still has another year of eligibility left. So I get that it's not going to happen, but I like his thought process. So as hard as I've been dogging, pointing out Zachariah Branch having a really bad season so far, I think he's going to make me eat some crow next week. I think he's going to score a touchdown. He's going to break that streak.
So I'm torn on this one, guys, and here's why.
I know why.
McKinney's answer I liked. That was exactly the sort of thing I had in mind, and far different from that abomination he gave us last week. But Mark is calling a breakout from a guy who's been my favorite player on the roster, and he's pressing, I'm pressing, we're all pressing. Mark Holkin just won the game. He cheated. It's sort of like giving the answer Ronnie Lott or Junior Seau or one of those things. But you know what? That's a guy who's done his scouting. Mark, congratulations on the big win. I'm excited for you.
I'm adapting to the big conference type of officiating.
That's exactly right. I don't know if that officiating is outright crooked the way mine is. It just seems incompetent. But anyway, congratulations to you, Eric. I'm sorry you gave a better effort this week. You have nothing to be ashamed of except the loss, which is shameful. Does anybody have anything to share with the people before we go?
Yeah, I made a mistake when we were at Michigan, and I realized that they were serving fish in the press box. I did not go live. I did not put up a live video of Mark reacting to that. When he does eat actual crow, because we will make him next week. We will go live for that.
Yeah. I thought the fish sticks answer was probably the best 20 seconds we've had on any of our shows for a long time. It was so unexpected, right? You could have given me a million guesses, and I never would have guessed that Mark would be complaining about fish sticks on the show. That was amazing.
It's really the only prep I do anymore for away games. I call in, I ask what the meal is, so I know if I need to be ready and be able to talk Mark down from whatever that answer is. You should have seen him in Minnesota. Loved it. What was it? Almost erased the loss.
It was grass-fed meatballs. It was chicken fettuccine. It was Caesar salad. It was a regular meal.
I'm glad you had that experience, Mark. It probably almost made up for what happened on the field. Almost.
Almost.
Okay, well, we bored everybody long enough. We're not going to talk about this anymore. It's time to go. Guys, get out to the Coliseum Saturday. This team they are right there on the precipice. This season can get back on track, or it can come to a giant explosion of a sad ending. Get to the Coliseum, root these guys on. They're playing hard, they deserve it.
Eric, do we have a promo code that we can promote right now before we get out of here?
Yeah. So WeAreSC.com. If you use code FIGHT ON, 50% off an annual membership ahead of the big game. You're going to want to be there. Talk with fellow Trojan fans. You'll be at the Coliseum, but use the On3 app, WeAreSC.com. We'll talk all through the game.
Well, there you go. You can't have a better offer than that. Okay, we're done. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Till then, fight on.